Okay, it says we're live. I hope we're doing this the right way again. Let me try to go live here on Facebook as well. Do 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 do. All right. I don't know if Facebook's working or not. we're we're live on the most part here. Um, Today I'm going to bring my assistant in here. Hello, Jordan. I'm already I was
Hello.
so set up for everything, and now everything is falling apart very quickly. So anyways, it's been a couple weeks here since we did our last What is Your Why? So welcome to What is Your Why, where we bring inspiration to you and through the people that inspire us. And right now I'm getting notifications that we're having trouble streaming to Facebook and blah blah blah. So okay, well
We're
we'll
gonna figure that out. We'll figure that
figure
out
that
later.
out as we work here today. But yeah, so it's been a little bit of a stressful couple of weeks here, huh?
The good stress, but
Good stress.
stress is
Good
still
stress.
stress.
Stress is still stress, and as we're experiencing right now, because I'm clicking go live and it's not going live. But
It's all right.
I am happy to report that we had a very successful event. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Jordan?
Sure, yeah. Uh, oh God, was that just a couple
Like
weeks
2 weeks
ago?
ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been 2 weeks already. We had an incredible event at Nebraska Brewing Company. Thank you again to Nebraska Brewing Company for giving us the
Yep.
venue and being awesome as always.
Yes.
It was so great. We got to host a graduation that was open to the public, and that was a really amazing opportunity. Um, we had a lot of our students perform this time, which was great. We need to do that more. We got some really awesome students, and we need to get them performing more often.
Yeah. I'm so proud of them. I watched them work so hard and they put in so many hours, the effort. But what was more exciting was just to see the pride of accomplishment on their faces when they did that. Um,
Hmm.
I would love to do that again. So that's what we're going to do. We've been asked to come back and do it again. So we're going to look to schedule probably maybe later in the fall, uh, some some of the next graduations, I hope. So today we have with us Jason Anderson, and we're going to be talking to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. And this is an issue that has impacted our family for many generations back, actually. And if you don't know what Crohn's is, it's an autoimmune disorder. And there's always like any with any disease, always new stuff happening. It's always changing. It's always evolving, and there's a lot to be learned, even if you're somebody who lives with it. So today we're going to meet with Jason. We're going to hear about his journey, why he works with the foundation, and what we should do to connect, and what we can learn from what the foundation is doing for us. So let's bring Jason in this morning and say hello. Hi, Jason.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, it's so great to have you. Thank you for making the time to be with us today.
Yeah,
I
thanks.
apologize that again, I thought I had Facebook all connected, but we are being recorded and so we will post it. But we are going live on LinkedIn and YouTube here. So if you said, "Hey family, watch this today," we'll keep troubleshooting it. But I am not, I'm not a tech person. I will never understand technology, but if I can mess it up, I'm like a gremlin. I'm a tech gremlin. Um, but I am super excited. We got to meet maybe about 18 months ago, if not. And I said, "Yeah, I'll be in touch with you." And then like I disappeared. But though I was not able to reconnect with you, I had been like elusively just paying attention. I think that we know some other people who are involved with the foundation. We've heard about a gala and all of that. And so I'm really glad that you reached out about 2 months ago to reconnect with me. Like I said, I wish I could volunteer for every organization that I feel very passionate about. And I do feel very passionate about this community for many reasons. I wish I had the time to devote more to you. But today I do just want to bring awareness to people. Number one, about what Crohn's is. And number two, about the support that is available to us, especially here in our community. Omaha is so great. Nebraska is so great about supporting each other. And sometimes we don't know these things are out there. So I'm going to actually turn the platform over to you, let you kind of introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? How'd you grow up? And where did life take you to get you to this point, if you don't mind sharing?
Okay. Well, Taylor, as you said, my name is Jason Anderson. I'm the executive director for the Nebraska, Iowa chapter of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. The foundation is a national foundation headquartered in New York, and we have chapters all across the country. Our chapter serving all of Nebraska and Iowa, it's a pretty good size area that we cover.
Right.
And we estimate there are probably about 48,000 patients in Nebraska, Iowa, who are affected by Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis.
Wow.
Because they estimate that about 1 in 100 people have one of the diseases. So I grew up in Nebraska, a small town, Davenport. Grew up, did all the things, right? In a small school, you do all the sports, you're in the band, the choir, the school plays, all the stuff. Went to Hastings College, did track and field there because that was something I had really liked in high school and did well enough in that I got to do it in college. Met great friends, met my wife. She played volleyball there at Hastings. And right as we were getting ready to start, like the life stuff, I started feeling sick and started feeling really bad. I was in my second year of working for the Boy Scouts, my first job out of college. And it was the summer that we were going to get married. We were getting married in August of 2001. And starting in about May, I started to get kind of sick, and the kind of sick you don't like to talk about, right? Like I had to go to the bathroom all the time. And I didn't have a family doctor yet because I was new to Lincoln, and guys don't go to the doctor, right? We don't need to. It's fine. It'll be fine. And that worked for a little while. And then I went and I visited my wife's family doctor. She was from Lincoln. So I went and visited him, and he said, "Oh, I think it's just stress. You got a lot going on in your life. Eat more fiber. You'll be fine." Well, that wasn't great guidance. Didn't really help me at all. Over the course of that summer, I lost over 30 pounds. On the night of our rehearsal, I was sweating so bad, and everyone's just like, "Wow, Jason's really stressed about this whole wedding thing." Like, no, I'm not. I'm super excited about this whole wedding thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening. And so actually that night we had our rehearsal. We're at our rehearsal dinner with all of our friends and family and our wedding party. And we're like, "Hey, sorry, groom needs to go to the emergency room." And so went to the emergency room, finally met a doctor who has become our family doctor and still is. And, he filled me with enough fluids and stuff that I could get through the wedding. And then he connected me to a GI. He said, "You need to go see a GI and get stuff sorted out." So on September 12th of 2001, so the day after the world changed, I learned I had ulcerative colitis.
Oh, wow.
It's like, oh, okay, what's that? And again, in typical guy fashion, I just kind of said, "Okay, whatever. I take medicine for that. Okay, good. Let's start the medicine. Let's go." And I took the medicine. I felt better. And that was that. Let's just keep moving. So now I'm newly married, still a fairly new young professional, and I've been told I have a chronic illness. I take the meds. I'd have a flare up at least 3 times a year. And I thought, well, this is just going to be normal. A flare up meant that my trips to the bathroom increased dramatically. My energy level went way down. I felt sick to my stomach almost all the time, but I kept working. I kept doing my thing. And I didn't share really with anybody what was going on because I didn't want to talk about it. It's a bathroom disease. I didn't want to tell people that, "Well, yeah, hey, I got to stop, guys. I need to go to the bathroom." Or, "Hey, sorry, excuse me from this meeting. I need to go use the restroom." It was embarrassing. And my close circle knew, but I didn't talk about it with my coworkers. I didn't talk about it with all my volunteers and stuff. It wasn't something I wanted to share.
Right.
Well, as time went by, we had children, and that was a whole nother thing. I had to change up my medication and everything in order for us to get pregnant safely, and getting off your meds really messes everything up.
Yeah.
And so I went through times then again where I'd be in a bad flare up, might miss a whole week of work, might drop another 10, 15, 20 pounds really quickly, which, might sound like a great weight loss plan, but it doesn't work out that way. Losing weight in that way isn't a healthy thing or a good thing. And it sucks out all your energy and your desire to do anything fun. So we got through all of that. And in the process, I learned that I was not a very good patient. So I started to try and ask more questions and be a little bit more involved. And having Crohn's or ulcerative colitis means you get to have a lot of colonoscopies. They recommend, right, you start having a colonoscopy when you're 45. Well, try, you need to start when you're like 23. And oh, by the way, come back next year, and then come back again next year. And maybe we can stretch this time out to 3 years. And before you know it, having a colonoscopy is like a regular trip to the doctor. It's not fun, but it's the way it works. Well, after one of my regular visits, my GI said, "Hey, I think we need to remove your colon." And I was like, "Well, hold on, stop. I have been paying attention now, and this is not something we've talked about. What changed?" He said, "Well, Jason, we have not been able to really control the inflammation in your colon very well. So there's a lot of pseudopolyps. And given the fact that your dad had colon cancer, I don't feel comfortable saying that you're cancer free, because I don't know what pseudopolyps I need to test." So at that point, we brought in a specialist from the Mayo Clinic because I asked for a second opinion. He sent me to that specialist at the Mayo Clinic, and the very first thing she said was, "Jason, why have you never changed your medication?" I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" She goes, "I can look at your chart, and you've never changed your meds. You've never had your disease under really good control. What's the deal?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I felt fine." She's like, "You couldn't feel fine." And she called my GI right there with me in the room and said, "Why have you never changed Jason's medicines?" He kind of said the same thing. "I don't know." We trust our medical professionals, and our medical professionals are very good, right? But sometimes they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
And if you as a patient aren't advocating for yourself and, really pushing for, "Hey, I don't feel as good as I think I could. Can we try something else?" Well, then there's only so much that your doctor can do to help you, right? So that was a real eye opener for me. And she changed my medicine at that time. She put me on a biologic, and it was the best I'd felt in more than a decade. And I was kicking myself. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I could have been feeling like this." So that I was on that biologic for 13 months. That was amazing. I felt so good. I didn't realize I could feel that good. And having young kids, it was super exciting to feel that good, because it wasn't, "Oh, sorry, Dad's going to sit on the couch this weekend because I don't feel the greatest and I have no energy." I was out doing all the fun stuff. Well, 13 months, it worked amazing. And then it just stopped. And I'm like, "Oh, hey guys, what's going on here? This isn't helping anymore." So went and did blood work, and my body had built up antibodies to the medicine. That's a challenge that can happen with the biologics, is your body says, "Well, wait a minute, I don't think this is supposed to be here." So it fights it and gets it out. That's the whole problem with an autoimmune disease, right? It's not that your immune system is horrible. It's just that your immune system keeps fighting against itself. And so all of a sudden, this medicine that was helping me to feel good and helping my inflammation be under control, my body decided that the medicine was the problem. So I had to switch to a different medicine. And on that one, I could never get off of prednisone. Prednisone is a steroid. It's a great way to fight the inflammation in your body, but prednisone also has a lot of other side effects that go along with it. It can be kind of nasty, especially long-term usage of prednisone. And for a long time, for Crohn's and colitis patients, prednisone was a very heavily prescribed method of treating. And it is effective. I mean, I felt better, but I also knew that I couldn't stay on prednisone all the time because I didn't like the way I felt when I was on it. I
Yeah.
liked the fact that it kept my disease symptoms under better control, but I didn't feel good. I was sweaty and hot and hungry and angry, and I didn't like it. So I went back to my specialist at the Mayo Clinic because now my regular colonoscopies were there. I traveled all the way to Rochester, Minnesota for those treatments because I needed a more advanced colonoscopy than what my local provider could do. And I said, okay, what are the odds that I'll have to have my colon removed? And she's like, oh, Jason, 75, 80%, your colon is garbage. So in 2018 and 19, I went through a 3 surgery process to remove my colon, create what's called a J pouch from my small intestine. Basically, I took my small intestine, stretched it down, made it in the shape of a J. That's why they call it a J pouch, and told it to go act like a colon. So that 3 surgery process, I had a surgery in November of 2018, in February of 2019, and June of 2019. And right in the middle of all that, our youngest daughter, or our oldest daughter, Taryn, she was 14 at the time, she got diagnosed with Crohn's. Well, it changed our perspective quite a bit because when it was me, I was fine not talking about it, not making a big deal about it. I had went to a support group a couple times, as I was getting ready for my surgery because I wanted to know what to expect. But we had never done the Take Steps walk or been involved with the foundation very much at all. But when Taryn was diagnosed, it made it way different. While Taryn was in the hospital, she was in the hospital for almost 20 days, I think, when she was first diagnosed. She got down to 57 pounds. It was really scary.
Oh.
But Taryn right away said, there's going to be a cure in my lifetime. The Children's Hospital had shared information about the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation with us. And Taryn right away said, I want a walk team. And she started her walk team. She named it Taryn's Tiptoers. She came up with a quote that she wanted. She designed a t-shirt and she said, we're going to raise money for Crohn's and Colitis because there's going to be a cure in my lifetime. And I looked at that and said, wow, that's a way different approach than what I took. And that's probably a whole lot better. So we started to get involved. Taryn went to a walk, the Take Steps walk in Omaha that year, and she loved it. She loved being a part of that community and knowing that there were other people going through the same things that she was.
Right.
She was selected to be the honored hero of the Lincoln Take Steps walk in 2021. And at that time, we started becoming a lot more engaged in fundraising and learning about advocating. I actually was running a support group in Lincoln, which that was a big stretch for me to go out and put myself out there and lead a support group for others to talk about their disease and try and help them to navigate. And during that time, I was still working for the Boy Scouts. I started meeting with Aaron Castens, who had been the executive director of the Nebraska, Iowa chapter. And both of us being nonprofit professionals, we talked a lot of shop. We talked about fundraising and donor development and boards and all that kind of stuff. And when an opportunity came up for him to advance within the foundation, he called me and said, hey, I think you might want to apply for this job. And that's kind of how we got to where we are now. I became the executive director for the Nebraska, Iowa chapter in April of 2022. So I'm almost at 2 years with the foundation. And I love what we do. I love being able to talk to patients and their families, help them navigate their journey, learn about the resources that are on the foundation website, the opportunities to be a part of the community through our walks. Our chapter has 3 walks that we run. We run an Omaha Take Steps walk. This year, that walk is June 15th at Warner Park. We have an Iowa Take Steps walk in Des Moines. And that is actually the very next Saturday, June 22nd. And then we have a Lincoln Take Steps walk that happens in the fall. This year, it's scheduled for the Lincoln Children's Zoo on Saturday, October the 12th. Those 3 walks are really important. They build the community. They help people have a place where they can be around other patients, hear their stories, learn about the advancements that are happening, and do important fundraising that helps us raise the necessary funds to fund the education, research, and advocacy efforts of the foundation. We also have our Night of Champions Gala. And Taylor, that was what you had mentioned. Our gala event has become an amazing event in Omaha. That it started out as an event that had about 150 people attend, and now we're averaging about 450 to 475 attendees. And this last year, we raised over $440,000 to benefit the foundation's efforts. So we are fortunate to be in Omaha, and the support that we have in Omaha and Nebraska and Iowa for the Crohn's and colitis community is pretty amazing.
Wow. Well, thank you for that journey. That's incredible.
Can I just say really quick, your daughter is my new hero, because what a mindset to be that young and to be diagnosed with that. What an incredible mindset. She's my new hero immediately.
Yeah.
Well, and obviously you had something to do with that, and just perhaps the way that you might have been open sharing in front of her what you were going through.
Yeah. She is a pretty awesome kid, and we were really lucky. She had an amazing friend group around her too, because when she first got out of the hospital and went back to school, she had to have an NG tube in, so she had an NG tube in that was how she was getting all of her nutrients in the beginning. Especially with Crohn's, when your guts get really inflamed and upset, they don't want you eating a whole lot of food that your body has to work to digest. And so she was on a diet through her NG tube for a long time.
Right.
And I was really worried about, well, what's it going to look like when she goes to school? What are kids going to say? Are she get bullied? And here I am, I'm dad going, okay, let's see the first kid that says something. Well, we didn't have to worry about it. She had an amazing friend group that took her in and took care of her. It really was amazing. But her attitude had so much to do with it. So I do want to give an update on Taryn. Taryn is now a freshman at UNL, and she's majoring in microbiology because she wants to be a research scientist, work to find cures. She knew she could. She didn't want to be a doctor because she said, I don't want to poke people. I hate getting poked, and I've been poked too many times. Mm-hmm. She said, but I want to be in a field that is searching for the cure. So it is super exciting. And
that gets me a little bit emotional right now.
Yeah. We get that.
I'm so proud of her.
She's doing a great job, and she has definitely taken her disease and what life dealt her in it and said, yeah, I don't care. I'm not slowing down. I'm going to keep doing what I do.
Okay. Well, Jason, let me take a breath here for a second and recap some things. Cause wow, what a journey. Yeah. And there's so many parts of that journey that, our family can relate to. First of all, the complexity of getting hit with a diagnosis that when somebody tells you you have something, you're like, okay. But in truth, you don't even know what that means, because now you've got a diagnosis to manage, but also you're a young adult coming into life. So you're getting married and you're having a family and you're trying to work and maintain life, but also you're sick. But you're like, yeah, I know I'm sick. And you're like, but you're still not comprehending like how sick you are.
Yeah.
Because you're still trying to keep up with your peers and your expectations and where you're supposed to be in life and what you're supposed to be doing. And then you're not even realizing the impact that all of this is having on your stress level, on your mental health level, and then how that's correlating back to the disease that you're trying to battle. And then all that information, like you're having to become your own doctor, your own advocate, your own researcher on like what's happening to my body. And then you're processing, I'm losing my colon. Like we're not growing up prepared to lose parts of our body like that at such a young age. And it's such a critical part of life development and what you're growing into, because that does immediately, what people don't realize is impacting any choice of like a career you might have wanted to take, if you had wanted to, if your mind was set on, I was going into the military and now you can't because, well, you're losing your colon or whatever. Like, this is a drastic life change, no matter what stage you're at, as you're saying, like with your daughter. I think the blessing in being a child, perhaps when you get hit with this diagnosis, is number one, children are very resilient. They don't know what they don't know. Um, their life isn't they haven't set their life on a path. They're not like, I'm gonna go do this and now I've lost it. They have their parents looking out for them, and most have a good friend group. So like there's almost like a blessing to being diagnosed young as opposed to later in life, is from my perspective, not being somebody diagnosed with Crohn's. I have my own other issues. The other thing is the prednisone comment that you had made. When somebody is battling inflammation and the doctors don't know what it is, which is quite often the case with autoimmune, prednisone is always thrown at them. And I had a sister who had autoimmune issues, but the doctors never said it was autoimmune. They said it was all in her head, but they would put her on prednisone and that was the only thing that gave her quality of life, really, which wasn't saying much. It wasn't much of a quality of life, but it improved her symptoms. But when you talk about the devastation that wreaks on the body, that ultimately is what led to my sister passing at 39 years old, was because that was the only thing giving her quality of life, because they couldn't get to a diagnosis for her. And she went to like Vanderbilt. She went to major hospitals. Number one, that you got to go to the Mayo Clinic. That is something Jordan and I have talked about a lot. It's like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you get to the Mayo Clinic? Is that something I need to do? Because I feel like all of this is happening and it's too much. And I feel like I just want to start from scratch. And like, you went through three surgeries. I want to get into like the mental health aspect of like, how are you processing that? Did you have a counselor with it? Is that something that healthcare providers realize, that when you're getting hit with something like this, are we going to support you through a mental health part of it as well? Or is that something you have to cope with on your own? Like, there's just so much to having Crohn's, that when you mention, as I observed, I have Crohn's, and somebody goes, oh, that just means you like can't eat certain foods, right?
Yeah.
How much that diminishes the battle you're under. Again, and Jordan, that might be, you speak on that. I don't want to speak on behalf of anybody else. I am the mother of Crohn's, children with Crohn's, young adults now.
You
I
said that like you're the
I'm
mother of dragons. That
I am the
was
mother of dragons.
I am the mother of
But
Crohn's. Like,
I learned
okay.
through Jordan's diagnosis is that my mother was undiagnosed with Crohn's, and I had watched her whole life be so violently sick around food that I've never met anybody with so much food poisoning, because that was always what it was, the stomach flu, and it was food poisoning her whole life. And when she passed at 60 years old. Her bowels had died because it was untreated. Nobody knew. And the disadvantage that we had, being a military family, was we, number one, had military doctors. Not to disparage any military doctors, but back in the day, and we moved every 3 years. So there was no specialist. There was no, the luckiest thing that could have happened was perhaps have a doctor who had this in their family and would have been able to recognize it. But that was not the case. And so I get through Jordan in the same year, my sister had passed in 2014. My mother up and dies in May of 2015. Jordan gets diagnosed in September of 2015, and I just took her diagnosis like it was a death.
It was definitely a trauma response on, I think, everybody's part, because finding out that she had died because her bowels had died, like, and then being diagnosed with something like that, I was in shock. I was like, I know that this disease kills people, and for context, I had just started my senior year of high school. So while all of my peers were focused on parties and college and things like that, I was learning how to give myself injections, and I was learning about what foods I can and can't eat and how to navigate that. And that was a lot of stress. That was a very 2015 was a stressful year for us for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And what I had learned through Jordan's diagnosis, I was the more that I learned about the disease, the more I was like, Jordan, that's what my mom had. Those were symptoms she had. That was, and then it wasn't until my other child came into the diagnoses that I was like, that's exactly what my mom had. Because then I learned there were different types of Crohn's. So, Jordan, if you would bring the page up for me for the Crohn's Foundation, where we can just highlight some information about Crohn's, because I want people to be aware of when somebody says they have a bowel disease, this doesn't mean that they're making bad food choices. Um, and I'm going to speak on my illiterate behalf. Jason, feel free to butt in with your professional. But as you had already stated, that there is an increase in bowel disease here. That nearly 1 in 100 Americans are diagnosed. I can tell you right now, within a stone's throw. I know more than that. So
I've heard from a lot of people my age and younger are getting diagnosed with IBD,
and cancer,
and
like colon
colon
cancer,
cancer,
yeah.
and yeah, there's been such an increase in that, and that is so scary.
And
Yeah.
something I want to highlight before we get off here is symptoms that people should definitely not ignore because they're young.
Mhm.
So let's make sure we highlight that before we leave here. Studies
Yeah.
show that between 1.5% and 28% of people have it. A first degree relative, such as a parent, child, or sibling. So in that statement, as I said, I know for a fact my mother had it based on exactly what her symptoms were. Um, I never displayed any symptoms like that at all. And then boom, 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 things are happening to my kids. And we found out there's a protein related to this, a genetic piece, which is HLA-B27. And truthfully, just last week I got diagnosed, or not diagnosed, but told that my test came back positive for that. And I don't know if that's a new bit of information that's being released or whatever, but yeah, this disease runs rampant through what I know to be my maternal side of the family. I know nothing about my paternal side. So that there is this genetic component, and as you said, you were diagnosed and your daughter was diagnosed. This is like crazy. Like, I'm embarrassed that it just feels so new and enlightening to me. Like, holy crap, this can just run in families. I wasn't prepared for that. Um, let's go down a little further here, Jordan. Can affect any part of the. Let's go back. We'll go back. So this here. So when up, just a little higher up. The
More
page.
sorry.
There you go. So the Crohn's disease can affect any part of the GI tract from the mouth to the anus. And so one of the first things we had to learn was, what is your GI tract? You think you know, you don't know, but it's your nose, your mouth, your esophagus, down into your stomach, all the way through your intestines, all the way to the anus. And these are words that, like, when you want to talk about in public, right?
Yeah.
You want to
Yeah.
talk about my butt. I'm talking about my butt. Um, but it's a disease, it's inflammations, it's ulcers, it's bleeding.
Mhm.
Am I missing anything? Like, what?
Well, in most cases, in my case specifically, my Crohn's was in my terminal ileum, and for those that don't know, that is the part where the small intestines connects to your colon, and that's also where your body absorbs most of the
Right.
nutrients that you get
Yep.
from your food or your medications. And so when I was diagnosed, um, I don't even know how much I weighed, but it was not enough.
Mhm.
And we found out I was not absorbing anything. I was downing burgers, fries, pizza, like in one sitting, and I was not gaining any weight at all. And we couldn't figure out why. And it's because I was not absorbing anything from any foods I was taking, any medications. So, I mean, it's just crazy how that works
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
were just, like, sick all the time too, like,
all
there
the
was just
time.
no nutrition being absorbed. She got, like, really sick with mono when she was, like, 5th grade, and everything kinda just started to go downhill from there,
Mhm.
health-wise. Okay, so Crohn's is the ulceration, as it says there, it can skip or leave normal patches between the intestines, so it's not even that your whole intestine is inflamed, but,
Mhm.
if you look up colonoscopies, you can see what healthy tissue looks like and then
Mhm.
what Crohn's tissue looks like. And the best description I can give is, like, if you ever see somebody with, like, a fever blister or something, for it almost kind of reminds me of, like, That
Yeah, that was a symptom of mine as well. I had sores around my nose and my mouth. I had no idea they were Crohn's. I didn't even know.
which
I
has
thought it
nothing
was
to do with
acne.
food. Has nothing to
Right.
do with food. What, Jason, could you describe the difference between Crohn's and ulcerative colitis?
Yep. So, as you said, Crohn's disease can run anywhere in that whole GI tract, and ulcerative colitis is typically it's just confined to the colon, and that's why, like in my case, removal of the colon was basically it removed the disease, right? You know,
Mm.
they leave a little piece, you know, for attaching and everything, which they monitor for disease. Sometimes patients who think they have ulcerative colitis might have their colon removed only to find out that they actually have Crohn's. And so then it really didn't help them as much to have the surgery.
Right.
You know, and one
Yeah.
thing I do want to make sure that we say is the healthcare providers, the GIs, the specialists for Crohn's and colitis, it is amazing how far things have come and the research that is out there, and the quality of care that we get here in Nebraska, especially. I mean, we have amazing providers in Omaha and Lincoln.
Shout out to Dr. Livingston.
Shout out Midwest GI. I love my
Midwest U-
clinic. They are incredible. But they really are though. We have amazing
Shout out
providers
Children's
here.
Hospital. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Midwest GI, Nebraska Medicine, CHI, Children's, Boys Town. I mean, we have, and I really hope I don't miss anybody. GI Specialties in Lincoln. We have amazing providers, and so when we talk about frustration, right, with being diagnosed or misdiagnosed or undiagnosed, trust me, they're frustrated too, because it sometimes it takes a while, and sometimes depending on where you start with the process, your family provider may not send you to a GI right away because some of the symptoms that you're presenting with, it doesn't lead them to think, oh, they have Crohn's,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so that's where, you know, our job as a patient is to make sure that we are as completely transparent as possible when we talk to our doctor.
So,
And
Jason, let me interrupt you here because I do want to tell parents this part, okay? Speaking about general practitioners and things in your doctor, we were fortunate enough that the doctor Jordan was going to, Lori McGill, uh, was the one to suggest that Jordan get a colonoscopy. And Jordan came to me and said, um, "Mom, they want me to get a colonoscopy." I said, "Jordan, you don't need a colonoscopy. Are you kidding me right now? Like you probably did that.
I
Like
was
I'm
17,
a
but
doctor,
yeah.
you know." And so they called, and there was a lot going on, mind you. There was just too much background to give you to understand why I was in the place that I was in. But going back to my mom had just died and everything. I go, "Do you feel like you need a colonoscopy?" And she just looked me dead in the eye and she goes, "Yes." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So we book it. And then it's just her and I, and we go to the colonoscopy, and the prep was awful to watch her to have to go through and everything. But I meet her doctor, Dr. Livingston, and I say to him, "Ha ha ha, you're probably not going to find anything." So she goes back, he comes out, he opens the curtain, he goes, "We found something." And I like died on the spot right there because I was like, "Oh my God, I told her not to get this." And that's the one and only time I've ever been wrong in my life, but I was way wrong. Way, way wrong to speak for my daughter's body. And it was that moment on that I said to Jordan, "You're your own advocate. Nobody knows your body but you. You have to learn to speak up for this." And fast forward many years later when he cracks a joke to my daughter. And my son's getting the diagnosis. Did she believe him or is that don't tell your mom I said that. But so as parents, I would just put out there like trust your child to lead you. If they say they're not feeling well, to do those tests. Because I was way wrong in that. But to your point, general practitioners aren't always going to be able to advocate for that either. And I'm just very grateful we had a doctor that did.
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, and there are some great resources on the foundation website that talk about partnering with your doctor. It has ideas for questions for discussions you might want to have with your doctor. all of this can be hard to talk about, right? And so one of the things that I think is really great on the foundation website is there are lots of resources that help you as a patient or a family member of a patient um, process it, learn how the kinds of conversations you need to have, the kinds of questions you might want to ask. And it is really helpful. And so never be afraid to really dive in and search for information. I mean, the foundation's always here. You can always call on me directly, call me, email me, whatever, and we can have conversations. But there is amazing resources out there.
Did you want to go over the forms that you sent us today? Did you want to bring those up and talk about those?
Yeah. So one of the things I sent you, the foundation's highlights from 2023. This is something I love to talk about. So when I was diagnosed, a big part of the reason why my doctor put me on the meds that he put me on was because he was like, well, there's really only one other medicine, that was Remicade. And he goes, I don't want to put you on that unless we really have to, because then if that doesn't work, I don't know what we'll do. Well, now there are tons of options. And one of the things in the highlights that I think is super exciting, my board probably laughs at me because I talk about this one all the time because I think it's so cool. But they're working on this smart pill, right? So they're working on this smart pill. And if you're familiar, with like a smart bomb, right, or whatever, it's supposed to deliver something exactly where it's needed, right? Well, a big problem for Crohn's and colitis patients is that your inflammation can be in varying spots along that GI tract or inside your colon. And no matter what, depending on how you get your medicine, that's a ways for the medicine to have to travel. So depending on where your inflammation is and where it's the most severe, you might be getting a higher dosage or medicine more often. And you might have some additional side effects from the medicine trying to treat your inflammation. Well, the smart pill is designed so that it will deliver the medicine exactly where the inflammation is. And this was just something that was like an idea, right? A couple years ago. Well, now they're in the final testing of this, and they've got this pill. It's probably a little bit larger of a pill, kind of like maybe a big multivitamin kind of thing. And it's got light sensing technology that can tell where it's at in your GI tract and release medicine to where it needs to be. So this has been through some FDA testing now, and it is now getting to a point where hopefully it's going to be released to patients soon. And it can make a huge difference. And this isn't just an advancement for Crohn's and colitis. I mean, this could be for a lot of different things. So the research that went into this technology is amazing.
Well, in my mind, what I'm envisioning is, first of all, if you have inflammation, that pill ain't going anywhere. So it would have to release medication just to get through the body. But I've never heard of such a thing. And
yeah.
Wow, thank God.
Yeah. And Jordan, this next one. So do you have to get a lot of blood work done if you're worried about having a flare up? Do they always test your blood and you get lots of pokes?
Oh, I'm a pincushion. I am
So they're working on this monitoring device. So it'd be kind of like a Fitbit or like an Apple Watch it'll measure the biomarkers in your sweat to be able to tell if you're having a flare or if it looks like a flare is approaching. So it's going to be a really non-invasive way for patients to know if they're having a flare. So that's going to be amazing, especially when you think about what that could mean for pediatric patients who might be terrified of getting all the pokes that they have to get.
That was one of the first things we ran into because Jordan was scared of needles in the beginning, and it was devastating to stand there, feel so helpless for my daughter. And I think the first medication they went to put her on was Humira, and I had to watch her get 5 injections into her stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And when she said, she was skin and bones, there was no place for these needles to go. And yeah, so to know little children are having to go through that and we could save them that trauma on top of all the other it's just, oh my God, there's so much.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I did not know of any of this advancement.
Yeah. So the foundation was started in 1967, and this is an incredible stat to me. Since 1967, when it was started, foundation has put more than $500 million towards research. And since its inception, the foundation has been a part of every major advancement in the treatment of Crohn's and colitis. So the foundation is really helping to lead some amazing work in the research, the education, and the advocacy for patients and families, and for the docs. I mean, the work that the foundation tries to fund and the research that we really invest ourselves in is also in support of the medical community and helping our doctors, have better treatment options, and better ways to diagnose, to help patients, monitor their disease and live with their disease.
Well, you know what? That makes me want to walk. That is incredible. That
Yeah.
I had no idea.
I'm just looking at the second part of this form here where it says you launched an IBD medication guide, gut-friendly recipes, breaking down barriers. You have a camp for children.
Yeah.
Wow.
So let me just pause here and say that when Jordan first got diagnosed, I was looking for a way to fix it. And so when I found the foundation, I was like, Jordan, let's do this. And she was like, no, I don't want to. And what we had run into is, especially on social media, there's these communities, and you try to join a community and figure out anything. Where do I belong? How do you cope? Where are the people that I can relate to? And these communities were so negative and
Mm-hmm.
so scary that in our mind, I think we thought, if I go to this foundation, I'm just going to be surrounded by sick people who are going to remind me that I'm sick, and it's going to be depressing, and I
Well,
don't want to deal with that.
and I struggled a lot with shame and stigma because yeah, like this is not a disease I wanted to run and tell my high school friends about. Like I have trouble in the bathroom. Like I
Yeah.
didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so you're right. I did join Facebook support groups, and understandably people need an outlet to vent and be negative and share those negative thoughts and feelings, and entirely understandable, but being exposed to that as like my initial um that was my first introduction to support groups for
Yeah.
this disease, and so I was immediately turned off to the idea, and so I stayed um pretty quiet about my disease for a long time, and I didn't seek any resources, and so um, that's why I've been so excited to have you on today, is because I'm learning so much and I'm getting so excited to be a part of this foundation. Like I want to do. How can I help? Like
One
Yeah.
of the cool things
I'm
Jordan
here.
did,
Tell me what to do.
right? So her first colonoscopy was like scary. We didn't know anything. And at some point, Jordan made this fabulous pamphlet. I think it was for a friend or something, but that it was like kid friendly. Like, this is what's going to happen to you, because she's an artist. She's a graphic
Yeah.
designer. If you guys need a graphic designer, I know one. But it was so kid friendly that made it like less scary. Like, this is what you're going to
Yeah.
do for a colonoscopy. I was like, Jordan, this is amazing. We got to get this out here. She was like, no,
Nope.
absolutely not.
'Cause
But if
then
we
people would
had
know. Like
friends, right?
yeah.
Right. And it's, you know what? It almost seemed easier. There was somebody in school who got diagnosed with cancer, and everybody rallied around this person. You have cancer, like, but Jonah was like, oh my gosh, if I tell people I have like this bathroom disease, like
It's a
nobody's gonna understand that.
yeah. And that was hard because,
She
I
saw this person getting
also
all the support, and
I didn't know how to ask for that support.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I saw that people were willing to give it, but I didn't know how to ask for it, and that is where I really struggled.
Yeah. Well, and the great thing about the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation and becoming involved in the walks or whatever is you start to meet people that are more like you than what you realize. And I completely get what you're saying about sometimes some of those online forums. You hear a lot of the negativity because it is an outlet for frustration, right? But there's also some good that's in a lot of those too, and some connections that can be made that help you realize, hey, there's other people that feel the same way. There's people I can share things with. There's people that are going through something that maybe my story can help them, and it becomes really powerful. We have amazing volunteers. Our walk committees in all three of our communities are full of amazing people who are, a mix, right, of patients and family members of patients who really want to get the word out there so that people know a little bit more about what Crohn's and colitis is, know that it's a chronic disease, not a diet choice.
Right.
Yeah.
Know that there are ways that we can help patients. So many people that have had the diseases for a long time that may just be comfortable in the treatment that they have, they might not know about the advancements that are out there if they're not involved with the foundation in some way. The foundation is a huge way to help our providers, especially think about Nebraska, Iowa, the amount of rural communities that we have. We talked about the fact we have amazing providers in Lincoln and Omaha, right? Well, what if you're from Western Nebraska? What does your access to that amazing provider look like? How can we make sure that your general practitioner has information that they know when to send you to a specialist? And so getting that education out there is a huge part of what we try to do. And it's not just for the patients and the families, it's for providers. It's for lots of people. We like to do lunch and learns with companies where we talk to the company about what the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation is, because sometimes there might be an employee there that never wanted to come forward because they didn't want to have to talk about it. But if their
Yeah.
company hosts a lunch and learn and becomes engaged with the foundation with a walk team or being a sponsor at Night of Champions or something like that, it might make that employee feel more confident and comfortable about sharing. So I think,
Wow.
Jordan, a big thing of what you said there of not knowing how to ask for that help. Sometimes it's education. It's putting education out there for all parties involved so that they're more comfortable with sharing and talking about what's going on.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because that is something as a young adult and entering into my career and things like that, I have always struggled with letting my employers know that I have a chronic illness and that there are times where I'm going to be really sick and I need that time off and things like that. I never knew how to approach that.
Or even just time off to go get your infusion.
Right. And so there have been times where I have been too embarrassed to say anything and I have been at my infusion in the chair working on my laptop because I didn't want to inconvenience anybody. I didn't want to um receive any sort of special treatment or make them think that I wasn't going to be able to work. And so knowing that you guys are going out and educating companies on this, like that gives me so much hope for my future,
Yeah.
and that brings me a lot of comfort to know that.
Good.
Jason, we're getting, a little short on time here. There's so much that I want to share and talk about of just this journey. So many people know about my journey with PTSD and healing and stuff like that. PTSD can be contributed to chronic illness as well. The mental health aspect of this to me is so critical and so important. As a veteran, though, I wanted to ask, do you work with the veterans who come back and we have many who have these debilitating bowel diseases that there's like no explanation for. Some of them call it like Iraqi belly or something like that. Do you have many veterans coming to your foundation for that kind of support?
That on the national level, I'm not really sure. That's a great question. Something that I'll definitely look into and try and find out more about. Locally, it's not something that I've heard a lot about in my 2 years here, but it's definitely another opportunity for outreach, it sounds like.
Definitely, because I have so many veteran friends who are chronically ill with these bowel diseases that they're just sick. They're sick
Yeah,
all the time. They're in
yeah.
pain. That's the other thing. There is pain associated. It's not that you're just sick. It is so painful. It's ulcerated in your body. And the doctors are like, we can't help you. There's just nothing we can do. And that scares me. And now to hear that there's like this pill that could even perhaps help them, yeah, I don't know. Do I direct my friends to the foundation? Is this something that can help them, So I do think that's an area that we could explore further to see like what is there a connection here to what they're dealing with to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. And there may not be, but maybe there's some sort of overlap there to look into. Could you just give us briefly what are some signs and symptoms that, especially like if I'm 40 years old having these, of course it would cross my mind that like I should probably go to the doctor. This is not okay. But if I'm 20 years old and thinking I'm invincible, maybe I would ignore these. But in either category, what are signs and symptoms that if people are having these, they should definitely go see their doctor just to make sure like it's not a chronic bowel disease?
hmm Well, definitely, I would say, if you experience like frequent times where you've got days in a row where you've got to go to the bathroom a lot, I would be keeping track of, was it something you ate? How many times, um, where I would have a really bad day of where I went to the bathroom a ton, and I'd be like, oh, it must have just been something I ate.
Mhm.
Well, if that's happening frequently to you, it's probably more than just something you ate. It could mean that something you ate is flaring up your disease that you don't know you have. But frequent stomach pain, uncomfortable, especially if you start to food journal and you can track where there's certain things you're eating that are always causing a problem. I would get it checked out, because there are a lot of different autoimmunes, that can cause challenges with your diet. And diet can be a trigger, right? Diet isn't the cause of it. Diet is a trigger for your disease. So lots of stomach pain, or frequent stomach pain, frequent times where you've got multiple trips to the bathroom, loss of energy, fatigue is a huge one. Unexplained weight loss. All of those are symptoms that you should definitely be talking to your doctor and pushing the issue, if they recommend a treatment that really doesn't end up doing anything. Like when I
Right.
got my initial one of, hey, go eat more fiber, I should have went back and said, hey, this didn't help. What else can we do? But instead I just said, nah, whatever, just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really paying attention, and if you start to get to a point where you think something's going on, tracking your symptoms. That's another resource that's on the foundation website. There's a symptom tracker where you can kind of download a thing and keep a log of how you're feeling, and what's going on with you, and what happens when I eat this, or what happens when I do this, and how long does it last. So I guess in a
Well, I
nutshell,
know we emphasize the genetic component, but it does not necessarily have to be genetic. Is that true?
correct. Yeah, it does
Right.
not.
So
It,
don't be thinking, well, nobody else in my family has this, so I don't have it. It very
exactly.
well could be you.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, I personally have noticed a trend that really stressful, borderline traumatic events
Mhm.
or experiences, like if you're under an immense amount of stress all the time, that can often be a trigger for it. Again, you're probably already predisposed to having the disease, but
hmm
I know that I started exhibiting symptoms around a very traumatic time for my family. And so that's definitely something. Be aware of your stress, take
Mhm.
care of your mental health because that is such an important part of it.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
don't go through it alone. You can't, and don't let anybody the unsolicited advice. That's a whole other show. Um,
I yeah, that's a
it's a
another
whole
time.
we don't have time to unpack all of this.
Yeah.
But you have a gala coming up. Jordan, is there the sheet for the gala? You said in October, I think. Is that right?
The gala is Saturday, November the 9th.
Oh, that's not the gala. Sorry.
Yep. Yep. Our Lincoln Take Steps walk is in October, but Night of Champions is on Saturday, November the 9th. This year is being held at A View West Shores, out there on West Dodge. So it's a great event. As I get more information about the event, I'll share that with you too. Our planning committee is working right now on putting everything together, but it looks to be another really great event.
I don't know that I've really been to a gala. Can you walk me through what that entails? It sounds like I have to dress up, and I'm immediately
Oh
opposed
yeah,
to that
yeah.
idea.
Everybody has to dress up. We started off with a cocktail hour that has live music and just a time to gather and visit and talk a bit. Um, Nice dinner, silent auction, live auction, lots of games and raffles, things, opportunities to help us with our fundraising and have fun.
Is there a financial goal?
This year we hope to raise over 450,000.
Okay.
We got to 440 last year. Would like to raise over 450,000 this year, and just kind of keep growing the event and keep growing the exposure to Crohn's and colitis that the event helps to bring.
Or we're definitely, on board with helping you spread that awareness. We're grateful to have connected with you and the foundation. I've signed up for the newsletter, which I told Jordan I'm embarrassed that I hadn't done that sooner because at a minimum, that's something I could have done. But I tend to get too helpful, and Jordan has made it clear she doesn't want me showing up at every doctor's appointment. If you can believe
Yeah.
that, I
Yeah.
find
You're
that
doing a
rude.
really great job of respecting
You
those
know what stopped
boundaries,
that
so
was
thank you.
COVID. COVID when they were like, "Your mom can't come." I was like, "Are
Yeah.
you sure I can wait in the car?"
Yeah.
You know,
And you
but
did, but you did. You waited in the car, and that was very sweet.
but eventually I was like, "You're on your own. You got this." But we definitely wanna help. If people wanna get involved, volunteer, how do they contact you?
On the foundation website, you can find our chapter, and our chapter will have my email address and a phone number and everything. You can reach out, we can connect that way, and I can help you find the way that you want to be engaged with the foundation.
That's awesome. Yeah, if you're somebody out there that isn't already volunteering for something, there are plenty of ways, plenty of people, plenty of chapters for this and chapters for that, foundations. Everybody needs support, and everybody can do something. Is my motto, and it doesn't even have to be something big. Just contributing to a silent auction, showing up to an event, just sharing the foundation page. Um, as small as that might sound to you, that can be really huge because it can come right into somebody else's feed that needs it at that time. So just find a way to plug in. If you have questions about Crohn's and colitis and you don't know who to contact, you can reach out to me or to Jordan and we'll connect you with Jason or the people that we know out in that direction. Jason, thank you for being so patient with me, for reaching out to me, staying involved. Jordan, you have something?
Uh, you didn't ask him what is his why.
You know what? I'm gonna let you ask.
Awesome, very cool. Jason, what is your why for doing the work that you do?
My why is Taryn. There will be a cure, and we will continue to find better treatment options for all the patients out there. And that is my why.
God
Awesome.
dang, you just made me cry.
I know, I'm getting emotional. We gotta log off.
I didn't get so emotional, but your daughter is amazing, and I look forward to meeting her because
Me too.
wow, empowerment to the fullest. It doesn't have to stop your life for
Yeah.
sure. Um, I'm so honored that you took the time to be with us today,
Yeah.
and
Thanks for
that your guys are out there fighting for my family, for the things it's impacting us, and we're so grateful for the people doing the research and raising the money and all of it. We will take a more proactive role in the ways that we're able to as well. So please share your information with us. Let us know about the gala. Let us help participate and at least spread awareness as much as we can. Keep us in the loop. You have us on board.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so much,
Jason.
Jason.
Have a great weekend. There's so much to talk about and unpack with
I know.
the journey that just we've been on, let alone anybody's journey. We know many families that have been through, you don't want to compare, way worse than we have. Comparison is not
Yeah.
necessary. Everybody goes through their own stuff. And I'm trying to remember even how I met up with Jason. I think I just wanted to find out more about the Crohn's Foundation, I think.
Yeah. Well,
But
you know
regarding
what? I'm starting to think we need to do a Crohn's and Colitis G4V collab. We might have
maybe,
to put on a concert or something.
yeah, maybe if they need some music, we can help out in that category for sure. But I hope that you found this inspiring today too, because we have avoided, like I said, connecting with the foundation and hearing about the pill and about the device and all these advancements.
Yeah.
I
This
want to fight
is
more.
this is the first time I think I have ever felt excited about having Crohn's because knowing that there's the opportunity to do more and to share my story and to educate and to help people, and knowing that there are people out there who are willing to help me in the same way, like, that makes me excited to be a part of this community.
For me,
Um,
knowing there's a genetic component, and now that you have nieces and nephew, and now I feel that the fight for us for our why is more of we've got family to take care of. And
I am. I'm as much as it has sucked, I am glad to have been the first one in the family to be diagnosed because as much as I have gone through and as much as the family has gone through, like when John got diagnosed and in the future if anybody else I know gets diagnosed, like I know what's up. I know how I can help them. I understand the struggle, the emotions, and so like this hasn't been for no reason. Like I was diagnosed for a reason. I fully believe that. So,
right.
you know,
Well, Jordan, we did it again. With only a few tears this week because it's been a stressful couple of weeks. But thank you guys for watching our What is Our Why, for talking to us, telling us that you're watching it, that you enjoy the program. We're growing as we go here, but the goal is to bring people to you that inspire us in hopes that we can spread inspiration and that you're able to catch some because we all have work to do in this world and one team, one fight, right, Jordan?
mm-hmm.
All right, girl, I'll see you in a few minutes. That's all for this show, and we will have more coming up in the future. I'm going to be doing some traveling, so I got to figure out how to do this on the road. There's a lot to learn here, but guys, thank you so much for the support you continue to give me, to Jordan, through our music, through our platforms. It's huge. We do this because we want people to heal and we want families to heal and we just want to bring joy back into the world. So thank you for joining us. Stay tuned and I'll catch you on the flip side. You know what I'm saying? The flip side. Ciao.